Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to CTPM's first ever webinar, which we're all very excited about. Today's topic is reactive improvement and the session will be run for half an hour. My name is Samantha Rowan and I'm the Marketing and Operations Manager here at CTPM and I'll be the chairperson today. Our presenter today is Paul Furtado. Paul, who is Melbourne-based, joined CTPM in 2010 after 9 years' experience with Toyota Australia. Paul was certified as a Toyota Business Practice problem-solving coach in 2009. Since joining CTPM, Paul has been assisting BuildX, One Steel, Goulburn Water and B&D Doors and Openers as they progress their TPM and lean journeys. Before we get started, we'll just cover a couple of useful hints for people who have not used GoToWebinar before. Here we have a control panel with a variety of functions. This button, View in Window Mode, allows you to change your view. We have Raise Hand button, but due to the amount of people joining us today, we will not be using this function. Instead, if you'd like to ask questions, please just type them in the control panel box provided. We'll attempt to answer all questions at the end of the session. However, if we do run over time, we'll be sending out a questions and answer sheet via email, so no one's questions will go unanswered. If you don't want to type any questions, you can hide the control panel simply by pressing this button, and that will leave you with a little bar instead of a big control panel. To leave the webinar, simply go to File and press Exit Leave Webinar. Throughout the webinar, we will be doing some interactive polls, so when a poll appears on your screen, simply select one of the answers and press Submit. Other than that, enjoy today's webinar, and I will now pass you on to Paul.
Up now. Okay, so welcome everyone and look forward to this webinar today. So the 3 keys to reactive improvement. So why do we need to be good at reactive improvement? Clearly for all of you that are listening to this webinar, you're probably impacted by the need to produce more with less. So how quickly you can identify problems, solve them, and share the learning are common traits of the best companies. Stephen Spears in his book, The High Velocity Edge, which is a terrific read, uses case studies of companies that are leaders in continuous improvement, such as Alcoa, the US Navy Nuclear Propulsion Program, NASA and Toyota, and really goes into this in quite a bit of detail. So what is a reactive problem? So clearly it is where the budgeted or expected performance for that day has not been achieved. So reactive improvement is your ability to rapidly recover from an event or incident that stops you from achieving that expectation. So you could probably come up with a number of examples, but what we could say in respect of quality, where the parts produced or the service is below the expected quality standard. In respect of delivery, a customer did not receive a product or service on time. Safety, where an incident or injury occurred. And even in terms of reliability, a system or a piece of equipment did not work to a required level. So these reactive problems slow your progress, as in the saying, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So we'll go through these 3 keys to reactive improvement. So we believe they are effective daily review meetings, having clear policies for managing problems, and also having a structured methodology for problem solving. All of these 3 need to work in a systematic way for reactive problem solving to work well. So let's step through each of these in turn. Now, in terms of having effective daily review meetings, what we see as we go around some clients and some prospective clients, in terms of their daily review meetings, sometimes they do not highlight daily problems. There tends to be general discussion reporting. Things went well, no real issues. Often problems can be mumbled, so when you hear somebody's voice trailing off, you think, well, what's he really trying to say? Another point is they may have no clear process to tackle the problems raised. So in respect of assigning responsibility, having a clear time frame and using a clear methodology. Third point there is work around corrective actions are accepted. This happened, so we did this. So the corrective action can sometimes become a permanent workaround. Some other observations as well as these are there might be ad hoc follow-up. Somebody might say, how did we go with that issue that was raised on Tuesday? Poor monitoring of problems, and what we see also is problems are not closed off completely. Lastly, the point here is where there's poor structure and no clear agenda, it can be a huge frustration for those attending the meeting. So what do we need? And clearly we can say that probably the opposite of what we just mentioned, but firstly, you really want to create a good structure. So having a clear agenda that is visualised at the meeting place, this makes it easy for people to lead and to follow. This together with starting and finishing on time creates the habit. If you're leading, be aware of when the discussion is digressing and needs to be addressed, or if it needs to be addressed after the meeting. So this is one reason that we find these daily review meetings go over time. If you don't really control that discussion and really stick with it, you will always run over time. The third point there is ensure information is updated prior to the meeting. And lastly, I've just used a couple of examples of graphs from some of our clients where you can see 2 metre, and if you're site challenged, such as myself, maybe even a 3 metre rule, you've got red for bad, green for good, and you have it so that the problem, what we call, you can see it at a glance or it actually jumps into your eyes. So very clearly you can see where the problem is on your visual control. Some other key points for effective daily review meetings. The first point there is pretty self-evident that any deviation from expectation is noted with the reason and what the action taken is or will be. Your triggers for activating, which we'll talk about a little bit further, your problem-solving process are displayed. So what do they need to be? So some examples for triggers may be downtime is greater than an hour, any quality outflow or customer complaint, any safety incident, or any productivity drop of more than 10%. These are just examples. If the trigger is activated, then the designated person is assigned to report back within the agreed time frame. And lastly, agreed policies for managing problems are clear, and I'll expand on this in the second point. Just the last key points with effective daily review meetings: run a tight meeting, and it's not just about uncovering problems. Remember to recognise people for good work done. Now what we'll do is we'll take our first poll, so this will be a bit of an interesting process. So you'll have 4 options on your poll, so I think Sam will open that poll up. And so you've got 4 options there. Just tick the box that is most pertinent to your workplace. So I'll give you 5 seconds or 10 seconds of thinking time. Tick the box. Sam will be able to see who has completed, and we'll proceed with the presentation. Okay, I think you've probably all completed that now. What we'll do is we'll show the results of that at the end of this presentation.
Yep.
Okay, good, Sam, we'll keep going. So first point again around being effective, having an effective problem-solving process is having those effective daily review meetings. Second point is having clear policies for managing problems. What do we mean by that? So firstly, why do we need clear policies? What we find, if there is no clear direction about how you'll manage problems, then you run the risk of, firstly, not prioritising the highest value problems and spending time on low value problems, or you may be flooded with problems that cannot be closed. So you get problem accumulation and as a result, demotivation. So this is a key issue. So you've got your daily review, it's uncovering problems, but you're not able to, 1, focus on the correct problems and 2, you're getting problem accumulation. So what's the way forward? Firstly, you really want to determine which problems will be dealt with by a problem-solving methodology. Okay, so anything above that trigger, you must do or must perform that process. And anything below that trigger, you may then think, okay, look, we'll just contain that problem. So really try, it's almost like a bit of a triage. And again, these are just examples. Clearly your policies must suit your workplace and your situation. Another key point is having a clear time frame for action and follow-up. Now, in this example below, I'm actually going to go into the methodology, but don't worry because I'll cover it later. But having the steps 1 to 3, which might be around define, contain and analyse, done on day 1. By day 2, have the next step done. By day 3, be implementing the countermeasures. So a clear policy then for how you're going to tackle those problems. So the time frame for action and follow-up is very critical. Lastly, the key points here, you want to have a policy to prevent overload. What we see at some clients' workplaces is that you're having these problems come up, but not so much the amount of problems, but you're having the bottleneck will be the people who are leading the problems. So you may have a policy of how many problem-solving processes a person can lead. So that would be important. And the last point, to ensure completion, have a check or have a review system. So you may say that every week we'll review one old summary sheet and confirm the process is standardised and the root cause is still eliminated. So these again are just examples. Your policies that you create will need to serve the objectives of your organisation and they need to make sense to you and your people. Now Sam, I'm going to throw it back to you for the next poll. So again, I think you've got 3 options from my memory on this poll. So again, we're going to give you a little bit of think time and there's just some questions around what policies you have, or if you have them at your workplace. So take some time to answer those. Just give you a few more seconds.
Yep, we're about 60% voted.
Okay.
And we're there.
Good, okay, well done. All right, so again, so we're going through the 3 key points. You've got your effective daily review meeting. You've got clear policies in place for managing problems. Lastly, are you using a structured process or structured methodology for problem solving? Just a little bit of the why. Why do we need a methodology? Can't we use a number of different methodologies and you know, and have these running? One of the key issues what we find is you do need, certainly you do need a methodology and you need a key methodology to use. What you see and what you probably have experienced in your workplace is that people obviously can propose solutions on gut feel. Lots of money and time can be wasted on these gut feel solutions for varied and unsustainable results. In respect of what we call the PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act, there's very little plan, big on the do, and again small on the check and the standardise. So little analysis, all action. And this is where you see people are very quick to sort of jump on the reactive problem, say this is what we're going to do. The countermeasure is applied but not maintained because there is low confidence in the countermeasure. And obviously little knowledge of all possible contributors to the problem. The little diagram down there is saying, yep, we've got, you know, there's the actual Pareto, and what we may be addressing is really the third highest value or third possible cause in that group of sub-problems. So again, what we see in companies is that problems are not tackled systematically in a step-by-step fashion. And People think that there's one problem and that takes one solution. And again, it's important for everyone in the organisation to understand that problems are multifactorial. And the only way to attack the problem is to understand the smaller problems and tackle them one by one in a systematic fashion. So highest possible cause, analyse it, apply the countermeasure, and then go to the next. So you've actually got a strategy to work through the problem. So what is, again, what is the benefit of having a structured methodology? We have a common language, and when we have a common language, we have these outputs. There's a quicker response. When you're talking about containment or analysis, people know exactly what step you're at. In companies where there is a common language, people can challenge and coach each other, as in, have you fully analysed the problem? Do your countermeasures relate to your root causes? We see greater sharing because people can see the logic clearly on a summary sheet. And also we get organisational learning because these summary sheets and the process can be shared across the company. So what is the process? And probably for some of you this is not going to be new, but again we follow quite a bit of activity in the plan part of it. So defining the problem, defining what it is not, and having a object, deviation and impact format for that problem. So very, very clear problem definition. Containing the problem, knowing that if the house is on fire, we've firstly got to put out the fire and then analyse why it got on fire. So having a step there to actually stop the bleeding. Ensuring that containment's in place, it has assigned responsibility, and very importantly a time frame for that containment, because what we find is containments can drag on and become permanent, which is not what we don't want. Then we go into the analysis, where analysing problem is actually brainstorming, getting people together to brainstorm all the possible causes, validating those possible causes by data and fact and observation, and then trimming it down to one or two of the main possible causes. From there, we take those possible causes and then we start to ask why further. So we actually dig down. You may have a process flow at that stage, but what we're doing again is with the team, we're brainstorming the possible whys, we're then validating by data, fact and observation, and then getting to root cause. When we're at root cause, then we can then propose what are all the possible solutions along the hierarchy of control for those solutions. So you've spent quite a bit of time. Now when we say a bit of time, we don't mean you spend days and days, but proportionally you've spent time in that steps 1 to 4. This, of course, the PDCA can be run in 2 hours if you want. It's really the thinking steps which need to be applied. Clearly implement solutions, so apply the solution to the root cause. And then in the check, obviously evaluate, is your solution in place and is it eliminating the problem? Is it closing the gap to your desired outcome? And then obviously the standardise, and do we need to deploy further across the business? So again, big on the P, thorough analysis and speedy action. So we use this because we really want to prevent the common flaws of human thinking. So as much as we'd like to think we're perfect, perfect beings, we have basic flaws in our thinking, and we tend to go to gut feel or use our intuition straight away. So as we said in the prior slide, we really want to promote a team approach. So it's not a person doing frontline problem solving, it is a group of people doing it who you believe are best served or have got the best knowledge of that process. Again, it is about getting the solution, but importantly, it's about promoting learning about the process you're looking at. in every case that we've had where people have done frontline problem solving, that actually understood their processes better, and in that process of understanding, they've actually helped or improved their process capability. And lastly, it really is about capturing the learning, so that we don't want to be reinventing the wheel. If somebody has investigated and applied a solution, we want to use that thinking to actually move ahead. With one of our clients, we use the phrase, use your wisdom, but validate your assumptions by data and fact. So we don't want to throw out intuition, but we actually want to use that but validate it. We talk about capturing the learning, and one of the ways we do that is on the Frontline problem solving summary sheet. So this is a summary of the learning, and this is used as a communication tool that assists in engaging people during the approval process. We have a countermeasure. Before we apply it, let's take people through the learning. Assists in engaging employees during feedback, an area being focused on. So what you may do when you're doing your fishbone, you can actually use all the people in that area to support or to input into the fishbone analysis. Of course, it captures the knowledge for future reference, sharing the learnings, and importantly demonstrates the logic of the process, so it can be demonstrated and checked. And a key point with this is the coaching. The coaching of the supervisor for the team leader or for the manager for the supervisor to really check the logic, and not to point out the issues with the logic, but actually to help reinforce correct logic and to coach. So our summary again, we have the three keys to reactive improvement: effective daily review meetings, clear policies, and a structured methodology. We have to do one last poll, I think, Sam, so I'll let you open up that poll.
Yes, we're just launching it now.
And again, I think, lovely, and I think you have, again, three options from memory, because I can't see the poll, but if you can take a little bit of time to tick the right box for yourself, sorry, and what pertains to your experience.
And all the votes are in, Paul.
Good, okay. So just lastly, we know that there has to be proactive, you have to move ahead as a company, but also you need to be good at reactive improvement. To achieve excellence, operations excellence, you need to be good at both. And sometimes companies are so busy trying to move ahead that they lose sight of the importance of being very good at that reactive improvement. And the quote we like to use is, how can you reach higher when the platform you're standing on is unstable? Clearly you can't. So with that, I want to thank you for your time, and please take this opportunity to type in questions. You'll see on your panel there that you can type in any questions that you have, and what we'll do is perhaps pick a couple now, and Sam can read them out. If you want to send your questions, if you want to consider this further and send your questions into us, we will do that via email at a later date to you. But take this time, if you have any questions, I'd love to respond to them.
In the meantime, Paul, do you want to have a look at the poll results?
Sure, okay. So,
first of all, we had the daily review meeting. So at my company, 25% said had a not well structured and poorly run, and 75% said structured, clear reporting, but follow-up is inconsistent.
That's interesting. Okay.
The next poll are clear policies for managing daily problems. 60% that they had no policies, and also 40% said policies exist, but they're not always followed.
Okay. Yep.
And last but not least, the results from the last poll that everyone did. 60% said it was a structured methodology for problem solving, 60% do not have a structured methodology, and 40% do have a structure, but it's not used by most people.
Okay.
So it just shows that there's a bit of a need out there for problem solving.
Yeah, I guess, and importantly, you know, for you, you have to see what the missing element, I guess, for you is in your company. Having a structured process is important, but clearly you do need those other elements in it for it to work effectively. So I might hand back to you, Sam, and if there are no questions, because I can't see any there coming up, but I want you to, I certainly want to invite you to consider this presentation and send us any further questions that you want from us, and we'd love to respond to them at another time. So I'll hand back to you, Sam.
Yep. Thank you, Paul. So thank you everyone for attending today, and as Paul said, that I think actually we might.
Oh, we've got Andy's got one question.
Andy has got a question for us, so if I can just make it bigger. So our organisation has weekly structured production meetings, but no daily. What are your thoughts on this, Paul?
So can you hear me there, Sam? Or yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, great. So I guess you've got weekly production meetings. I think that's a step. I guess if that weekly production meeting's occurring at the start of the week, it may be talking about what you've got to, what you've got for the schedule for this week, or if it's on the Friday, it may be about what's occurred during the week. Probably, my response to that is it probably won't be giving you or allowing you the opportunity to adjust or to tackle issues as they arise. And to go to a daily, what you might find firstly, we're not getting too many problems coming up, but having that discipline, even to get people together for 5 or 10 minutes to say, yep, went well today, no worries, no issues. But what you're going to see is potentially the big problems that you may have in your once a week meeting, you're actually able to catch at an earlier point if you have your daily. And I guess, Andy, what you've probably got to ask your management is what is the size and impact of those problems that you're running into in your weekly meetings? If you address them earlier or within that day or within the 24 hours, what would be the value? And then you've probably got a good cost benefit to going towards a daily meeting.
Yep, very good. So any other questions before we go? Nope. So if not, I'd like to thank you all for attending again, and if you do come up with any other questions once you've thought about what you've just seen and heard, please do not hesitate to write into us or even giving us a call at head office. And hopefully this has been beneficial for you, and next month we'll be running another webinar, which dates and also topic will be sent out through email. So thank you once again, and hopefully we'll see you next time.